Thanks for tuning in to Operation Revenge. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin the story. The first time I brought Melissa home to meet my parents, they were polite enough. Nothing over the top, just the usual small talk about jobs and how we met. A couple of questions about her family, but I could already tell something was off. My mom's smile was too tight. My dad barely made eye contact. That was about 5 years ago. Back then, I brushed it off. Figured they'd warm up once they saw how happy I was. I was wrong. It started with little things. My mom accidentally forgetting Melissa's name and calling her Monica or Marlena in front of people. Then came the backhanded compliments. "You're so brave for wearing that color," she told her once, like she was trying to hide an insult inside a compliment. My dad wasn't any better. He'd ask me in front of her, "You sure she's not just with you for your paycheck?" Melissa would laugh it off, pretend it didn't bother her, but I knew it did. And it bothered me too, but at the time, I still believed I could somehow fix it. Like, if I worked harder, earned more, did more, they'd eventually accept her. Accept me. Respect what we were building together. But they didn't. The deeper Melissa and I got into our life, buying a home, trying for a baby, talking about opening our own design and contracting firm, the more intense the passive aggression from my parents became. And when we finally told them we were expecting, my mom's response was, "Well, I hope it doesn't turn out to be as stubborn as its mother." I wanted to yell, to tell her to leave, but I didn't. I just sat there, jaw tight, watching Melissa's face fall, and something in me twisted. Shame, mostly, and rage. After that, I stopped bringing her around as much. We spent holidays with her sister's family in Michigan, birthdays with friends. Melissa never complained. She said she was fine with it. But I knew she wasn't. She wanted them to care, not just for her, but for me, for us, for the life we were trying to build. And then came the baby shower. Melissa didn't want anything big, just a backyard gathering, simple food, close friends. She worked on every detail herself. She was 7 months pregnant, and still she was out there hanging streamers and tying ribbons on mason jars. That's who she was. She made everything beautiful. We invited my family. I wasn't sure they'd come, but they did. I remember watching them pull up. My mom in her beige cardigan, my dad trailing behind her like always. And for a minute, I thought maybe things could go smoothly. Maybe we could just be normal. Of course not. My mom brought a gift, an ugly yellow onesie with Grandma's favorite, printed in sparkly letters across the chest. Then she looked right at Melissa and said, "Well, assuming you don't mess this one up." I froze. Melissa didn't say a word. She just smiled that small, tight smile I'd come to hate. The one that meant she was holding it all in. Later, after everyone left, she sat on the edge of the bed, holding that stupid onesie, and whispered, "I don't know why they hate me so much." And I didn't have an answer, but I did have a decision. I went to see my parents the next day. I didn't tell Melissa. I just drove to their house, walked in, and sat down across from them in the same kitchen I'd grown up in. "I'm going to be a father," I said, "and I need you to hear this clearly. If you can't respect my wife, you won't be in our child's life." My dad looked away. My mom scoffed. "Oh, don't be so dramatic." I stood. "That's the last time you insult her and still expect to see me." And then I left. They didn't call. They didn't apologize. Weeks passed. The baby came early, tiny, beautiful, perfect. We named her Lily. They didn't come to the hospital. Didn't send a card. Nothing. And I finally understood. You can give and give and give, but some people only love you for the version of you they can control. Once you outgrow that, they stop pretending. So I stopped pretending too. And I made my family with the people who showed up. Melissa, Lily, United States. That was all I needed. Lily was barely 3 months old when my mother reached out again. It came as a Facebook message, not a call, not even a text. Just one of those generic, "hope you're doing well" messages with a heart emoji at the end, like nothing had happened. Melissa saw it first. She was feeding Lily on the couch when she handed me her phone and said, "You're not gonna like this." I read it, felt my jaw tighten. My mom hadn't said anything after the baby was born. No congratulations, no visit, no gift. And now she wanted to check in? "Ignore it," I said. But Melissa just looked at me and said, "You sure? Because this feels like the beginning of something." She was right. 2 days later, my dad called. I let it go to voicemail, but I listened. His voice sounded off, tired, unsure. "Hey, son. Look, I know we haven't talked, and I guess that's my fault. Just call me back, okay?" I didn't. I wanted to, but I didn't. A week passed. Then my sister called. Now, I hadn't heard from her in almost a year. She'd always stayed out of the mess between me and our parents. But she had her own way of being just as judgmental, just quieter about it. This time, she opened with a cheerful, "So, are you bringing Lily to Mom's birthday dinner?" That one actually made me laugh. "Seriously?" I said. "After everything?" "Oh, come on," she said, suddenly defensive. "It's Mom's 60th. You know how much she wants to see the baby." "Yeah? Funny how she didn't want to see her when she was born." "You're being stubborn," she snapped. "You're punishing everyone over a few misunderstandings." I didn't yell. I didn't say what I wanted to say. I just said, "We're not going," and hung up. Melissa was in the kitchen, gently bouncing Lily in her arms. "Did she really think we'd show up?" she asked. "They all think that," I said, "because that's how it's always been. I show up, I fix it, I keep the peace. Not anymore. I thought that would be the end of it." But the messages kept coming, polite at first, then not so polite. "Mom, you don't want Lily to grow up without grandparents, do you? Dad, son, we made mistakes, but family's family. Even my sister got creative. You'll regret this when it's too late." And the whole time, I kept hearing Melissa's voice in the back of my head. "This feels like the beginning of something." She was right. It all came to a head on a Sunday morning, about 2 weeks after my mom's birthday dinner. I was in the garage, changing the oil on the truck. Melissa came out holding Lily, a strange look on her face. "They're here," she said quietly. I stood up, wiping my hands on a towel. "Who's here?" She tilted her head toward the front of the house. "Your parents." I didn't move. I just stood there, heart pounding, trying to decide what the hell to do. Then I heard the knock. It wasn't frantic, but it wasn't polite either, just firm, repetitive. I opened the door, and there they were. My mom had a Tupperware container in one hand and that fake soft smile she used when she wanted something. My dad stood behind her, eyes on the ground like he'd rather be anywhere else. "We brought banana bread," she said. I stared at it. "Can we come in?" I didn't answer right away. I just looked at them, really looked at them, and thought about everything they'd said and done. About how they made Melissa feel. About how they'd ignored their granddaughter. I stepped aside. 10 minutes, I said. They came in, sat stiffly on the couch. My mom handed Melissa the banana bread like it was some kind of peace treaty. Lily made a soft cooing sound in Melissa's arms, and my mother's face lit up like it hadn't in years. "Oh, look at her," she whispered. "She's so precious." Melissa didn't say anything. She just nodded, held Lily a little closer. Then my dad finally spoke. "We want to fix things," he said quietly. "We know we messed up. I know I should have said something sooner, but I didn't. And I'm sorry," my mom nodded too quickly, jumping in. "We were just scared, that's all. Scared we were losing you." I looked at them for a long moment. Then I asked the question that had been sitting in my chest for months. "Were you scared when you made Melissa cry after the baby shower?" Neither of them answered. "Were you scared when you didn't come to the hospital? Or when you talked about her like she was a burden?" Still nothing. I stood. "You don't get to skip all of that just because you baked something." "Son, no," I cut in. "You don't get to act like you care about Lily until you can respect her mother. You don't get to call this a misunderstanding when it was years of disrespect." Years Melissa stood too, still holding Lily. Calm, quiet, strong. My mom's voice trembled. "You're really going to keep us from our grandchild?" I didn't flinch. "I'm going to protect my daughter. That's what a father does." They left without another word. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt like a man finally standing on his own 2 feet. 3 months passed before I heard from them again. At first, the silence was strange. Quiet holidays, no birthday texts, no snide little comments hidden inside phone calls. Just peace. Melissa and I fell into our rhythm. We were tired all the time. Lily had started teething, but we were happy. Every night, Melissa would fall asleep on the couch with Lily on her chest, and I'd just sit there watching them. That little girl had become my whole world. But the quiet didn't last. It never does. It started with a letter. A real one, not an email or text. Handwritten in my dad's shaky script. It wasn't long. "We don't want to fight anymore. We just want to be part of Lily's life. Please think about it. No apology, no ownership. Just a plea to be let back in." I read it twice, then dropped it in the trash. That night, I told Melissa. She didn't say much. Just looked down at Lily and said, "It's not about what they want anymore." And that stuck with me, because it was true. For years, everything had been about what they wanted. Their comfort, their pride, their version of what a family should look like. Not anymore, but the pressure didn't stop there. The next message came through a mutual family friend, Melissa's old coworker whose sister was married to my cousin. That kind of distant but still connected nonsense. She reached out through Facebook Messenger. "Your parents really miss you. Your mom cries all the time. I know it's not my business, but maybe just let them meet Lily, even just once." I stared at that message for a long time. Melissa was in the kitchen at the time, blending up some mashed sweet potatoes for Lily. I walked in, phone still in my hand. "They're using people now," I said. She didn't even look up. Of course they are. Guilt by proxy. Classic move. "Do you think I'm being too harsh?" Melissa turned off the blender and looked at me. "Do you?" I didn't answer. Because honestly, I didn't know. I wanted to be the bigger person. I wanted to believe people could change. But every time I thought about my mom's voice at that baby shower, or the way my dad looked the other way, I felt that old knot twist in my gut. Still, something in me cracked. I sent my mom a message. Just one sentence. "If you want to see Lily, we meet in a public place. No lectures, no drama." She replied within minutes. "Of course, we'd love that." We agreed to meet at a park on a Saturday morning. Melissa was hesitant, but didn't argue. "As long as we drive separate," she said, "and we leave the moment it gets weird." It didn't take long. They were already there when we arrived. My mom had brought a big blanket and a plastic tub filled with toys that still had price tags on them. My dad looked stiff in a polo shirt he probably hadn't worn since Easter. They stood as we walked up, Melissa holding Lily close. My mom's face crumpled when she saw the baby. She stepped forward, eyes wide. "Oh my God, she's beautiful." We didn't say anything, just sat down on the grass. For a few minutes, it was okay. My mom played with Lily's toes. My dad asked generic questions about how she was sleeping. And then, predictably, it shifted. "You know," my mom said carefully, "it really hurt not being there when she was born." Melissa tensed beside me. My dad added, "We've made mistakes, sure, but don't you think we all have?" I looked up. "You're not here to talk about your hurt." My mom blinked. "Excuse me?" "This visit is about Lily. You said no drama. That includes guilt trips." My dad exhaled hard. "Jesus, son, is this really necessary?" Melissa stood, brushing grass from her jeans. "Okay, we're done." I picked Lily up and followed without a word. My mom called after us, voice high and cracking. "Wait, don't do this." But I didn't look back. We got in the car. Melissa buckled Lily into her car seat, while I stared at the steering wheel, heart pounding. She climbed in beside me and whispered, "You okay?" "No," I said, "but I know what I'm doing." We drove home in silence, and when we got back, I took the toys they had given us and left them at the donation center near the highway, still in their packaging. I wasn't angry. I was just done. They hadn't changed. They never would. They wanted access without accountability, love without respect. And I wouldn't give that to them, not for Lily, not for Melissa, and not for myself. That night, Melissa laid Lily in her crib and turned to me. "Do you regret going?" I shook my head. It confirmed what I already knew. She nodded. "Then it wasn't a waste." It wasn't. It just closed the door a little more firmly. And for the first time, I was okay with that. It's been almost a year since that day in the park. Lily's walking now, more like wobbling with confidence. And she's already figured out how to get what she wants with nothing but a smile and a pointed finger. Melissa swears she's part magician. I think she just inherited her mom's determination and her dad's stubborn streak. We haven't heard from my parents in months. No cards, no messages. Not even a fake Happy Merry Christmas text like last year. And I can't lie. There were moments when I wondered if I'd gone too far. Moments when I stood in the hallway outside Lily's room, watching her sleep, and thought, am I robbing her of a full family? Am I becoming the very wall I always hated growing up? But then I remember what that full family used to look like. A dad who looked through me, a mom who smiled with knives in her words, a room full of people who clapped when you succeeded, but only if it matched their definition of success. That wasn't family, that was performance. I won't put my daughter on that stage. Still, it surprised me when the past came knocking again, this time in the form of a manila envelope left at the front door. Melissa found it. No return address. Just our names scrawled on the front in my father's handwriting. I opened it on the porch, Lily playing with chalk beside me. Inside was a letter. It wasn't long. We don't expect forgiveness. We don't expect a second chance. But we're selling the house and moving out of state. If you ever change your mind, here's our new address. Below it, 2 phone numbers. No guilt trips, no demands, no fake apologies, just facts. I handed the letter to Melissa. She read it, then looked up. So, I shrugged. So nothing. Let them move. Let them live their lives. She folded the letter and handed it back. Good. And that was it. We didn't talk about it again. We didn't need to. Some endings don't come with fireworks. No blowout fights. No last straw. Just a quiet, slow unraveling of threads that were never strong enough to hold anything real. That spring, Melissa's sister invited us to Michigan for a long weekend. Lily got to meet her cousins, splash in a kiddie pool, and eat an ungodly amount of watermelon with her hands. Melissa's brother-in-law grilled hot dogs while we all sat under the string lights in their backyard, laughing about the dumb things toddlers do when they're tired. That night, after Lily fell asleep in a travel crib, Melissa and I sat outside with a couple beers. It was quiet, except for the distant hum of bugs and the occasional burst of laughter from the kitchen. She looked over at me and said, "You ever miss it?" I didn't have to ask what she meant. "No," I said. "I miss the version of it I thought I had. Not the real thing." She nodded slowly. "I get that." We sat there for a while. No pressure to fill the silence. No need to perform. Just 2 people who'd been through it and come out stronger. Before we went inside, I looked up at the stars, clearer than they ever were back home, and thought, this is what peace looks like. No apologies owed. No validation needed. Just this life. My life. The one I chose. Not the one I inherited. Not the one I was guilted into. But the one I built, with hands that were never too rough, for a family that finally understood what love really looked like. Unconditional, uncompromised, and completely, fully mine. The letter didn't change anything, not really, but it stayed in the kitchen drawer for months. I didn't know why I kept it. Maybe part of me thought I'd need it one day, like a receipt for a life I'd returned. Melissa never asked me to throw it away, and I never offered. We just left it there, quiet, forgotten, like an old scar we didn't talk about anymore. Then, one night in late October, out of nowhere, my sister showed up at the shop. I was in the middle of replacing a timing belt on a Lexus when I heard the door chime. I glanced up, fully expecting a customer, and instead saw her standing there in a coat that looked too thin for the weather. I hadn't seen her in almost 2 years. She didn't smile, didn't say hi, just stood in the doorway like she wasn't sure if she should be there. I straightened up slowly, wiping my hands on a rag. "You lost?" I asked. Her eyes dropped to the floor. "Can we talk?" I thought about saying no. God, I wanted to say no, but something in her face looked different this time. Smaller. Tired. I nodded toward the office. We sat across from each other in silence for a moment. She looked around like she was seeing the place for the first time. I just waited. Finally, she spoke. "Mom's sick." I blinked. "Sick how?" "Cancer, ovarian, stage 3. I didn't say anything. "She didn't want you to know," she added. "Said she didn't want to guilt you, but I figured you'd want to hear it from someone." I leaned back in my chair. It creaked under the weight of the moment. When did she find out? 4 months ago. I laughed under my breath. Not because it was funny, but because of course they waited. Of course they kept it quiet. God forbid I be told anything in real time. She didn't react. Just sat there, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. "I'm not here to make you forgive her," she said. "Honestly, I don't even know what I think anymore. But she's starting treatment soon, and I guess I thought you'd want the option." I studied her. Really looked at her. She looked older than I remembered. Not in years, but in wear. Like life had ground her down the way it does to all of us eventually. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. She shrugged. "That's up to you." I didn't give her an answer. She stood, nodded once, and walked out without another word. That night, I told Melissa everything. We were sitting on the couch, Lily asleep in her room, the baby monitor crackling quietly beside us. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she asked, "Do you want to see her?" "I don't know," I said. She nodded. "Then we wait until you do." For 3 days, I avoided the drawer. On the 4th, I opened it. The letter was still there, folded neatly, just like before. I read the address again. Small town in North Carolina. A 5-hour drive. Melissa came up behind me, arms wrapping around my waist. "If you go," she said softly, "go for closure, not for redemption. Don't let them rewrite the past just because they're finally scared of the future." I nodded, so I went. I left early Saturday morning. Melissa packed me a lunch like I was headed out for a field trip. Even included a dumb note that said, "Don't forget who you are." The drive was long and quiet. Just me, the road, and too many thoughts I couldn't outrun. Their house was smaller than I remembered, more worn. The siding was peeling in spots. The yard hadn't been mowed in weeks. I stood on the porch for a full minute before I knocked. My dad answered. He looked like someone had turned the brightness down on him, smaller, grayer. His hands shook when he opened the door. "Hi," he said. I nodded. "Hey." He stepped aside. "She's resting, but she'll want to see you?" I walked in slowly. The house smelled like old laundry and lemon cleaner. Everything was exactly where I remembered it, but smaller somehow. She was lying on the couch, bundled in a throw blanket with a headscarf tied neatly around her head. She looked up when she saw me. Her eyes went wide. "Hi," I said. A tear slipped down her cheek. "You came." I sat on the edge of the coffee table, staring at my own hands. "I heard you were sick." She nodded. "I am." Silence stretched between us, long and awkward and full of all the things we didn't know how to say. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Then don't say anything." But of course she did. "I was wrong," she said. "About a lot of things." I nodded, but I didn't say, "I know." I didn't say, "I forgive you." I just let the words hang there. She reached out, her hand trembling, and placed it gently on mine. "I've missed you." "I missed who you used to be," I said. But she didn't miss me back. Her face crumpled, and for a moment I saw the woman who used to sing to me when I had nightmares. The woman who used to bake cookies when I came home with scraped knees. Before everything got twisted. "I wanted to be better," she said. I nodded again. "And I wanted to matter without having to prove it." She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry." That was all. No excuses, no defensive laugh. Just 3 words. I stood slowly. "I've got a daughter now," I said. "She's smart and strong, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure she never has to earn her place in this family." My mom opened her eyes. "I'd like to meet her, one day." "We'll see." And then I left. I didn't cry on the way home. I didn't feel angry or relieved. I just felt clear. I had done what I needed to do, not for her, but for me, for the boy I used to be, for the man I'd become. And when I pulled into the driveway, Melissa was waiting on the porch, holding Lily on her hip. She smiled when she saw me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "I am." Lily reached for me and I scooped her up, breathing in the sweet scent of baby shampoo and graham crackers. And right there, with my daughter in my arms and Melissa at my side, I realized something. Closure isn't always a hug or a clean ending. Sometimes it's just the strength to walk away without looking back. And that's exactly what I did. It's been 6 weeks since I saw my mother. She hasn't called. Neither has my dad. Not even my sister. I haven't reached out either. Melissa keeps asking how I feel, gently, like she's checking the temperature of a wound she's not sure has closed. I always tell her I'm fine. And for the most part, I am. But sometimes I catch myself standing in Lily's doorway, watching her sleep, wondering how many of my parents' patterns are buried deep in me, waiting to surface. It scares the hell out of me, so I do the only thing I know to do. I stay present. I show up. I hold Lily when she cries. I apologize when I snap. I let Melissa call me out when I start retreating into myself. And every day, I remind myself that the past doesn't get to define this house. We write our own story here. Still, the past has a way of circling back, doesn't it? It was a Wednesday afternoon when the email came in. Subject line, estate questions, urgent. It was from a lawyer, one I didn't recognize. Inside was a short message. Hello, Mr. Green. I represent your parents, David and Elaine Green. Your mother has been hospitalized for complications from her treatment. She has requested that you be notified of her health status and wishes to update you regarding her will and estate planning. She has asked if you would be willing to speak with her directly, or if not, to allow us to provide relevant documents for your review. I stared at the screen for a long time. Melissa was in the kitchen, feeding Lily Cheerios and making her laugh with a ridiculous puppet voice she used sometimes. The sound of it, pure, goofy joy, brought me back down to earth. Something wrong? She asked when I walked in. I held out my phone. She read the message, her face giving nothing away. You going to reply? I don't know. Melissa tilted her head, studying me. Do you want to? I honestly don't know, she nodded. Then let's figure it out. That night, after Lily was asleep, we sat at the table. Melissa opened her laptop and pulled up a blank document. All right, she said, cracking her knuckles. Let's list the reasons you might go, and the reasons you might not. I raised an eyebrow. You're making a spreadsheet, she grinned. What, you think only accountants do emotional math? So we did. Reasons to go, closure, knowing her condition directly, no regrets later, possible legal responsibilities. Reasons not to go, emotional manipulation, old wounds reopening, disrupting the peace we've built. Potential trap, last-minute guilt, pressure, performance. When we finished, I stared at the screen. None of it made the choice easier. Melissa leaned forward. Look, you don't owe her your presence just because she's sick. But if you need this, if you need to see her one more time, for your own peace, then do it. But don't do it because you think you should. I didn't respond. Not right then. But the next day, I wrote the lawyer back. Short and simple. I'm open to a phone call. No in-person meetings. No decisions today. The call came 2 days later. It was a nurse who connected us. My mom's voice was thinner than before, like someone speaking from behind a heavy curtain. Hi, she said softly. Hi. A long pause. I didn't expect you to answer. I wasn't sure I would. She let out a quiet laugh. That's fair. Another silence, this one heavier. I'm not going to ask for anything, she said. I just wanted to say goodbye the right way, not through a lawyer, not through my mistakes. I didn't say anything. I spent so much of my life trying to shape everything around me, she went on. You, your sister, your father. Because I thought that was love. I thought if I kept everything perfect, I could keep everything safe. But all I did was push people away. Her voice cracked. Especially you. Still, I stayed quiet. Whatever you do with this, whatever you decide, I want you to know I see it now. I see what I did, and I'm sorry I finally spoke. Why now? I don't know. Maybe because I'm running out of time, or maybe because I see what really matters now. And it's not pride, it's not control, it's connection. I stared out the window, watching the neighbor's dog bark at the wind. Lily's healthy, I said. She's smart, she's strong, and she has a mother who teaches her every day how to be kind. My mother sniffed. I'm glad. She won't grow up wondering if she's enough, I said. And she'll never hear love used like a weapon. That's because you're a better parent than I ever was. I didn't argue. We both knew it was true. There was one more pause, long, quiet, final. Thank you for answering, she said. I'm not angry anymore, I replied. It was the only truth I had left to give her. I hope she always knows how lucky she is, my mother whispered, to have you. Click. The call ended. No dramatic goodbye, no last-minute sobs, just stillness. And for once, I didn't feel hollow. I felt full. That night, I opened the back door, stepped into the cool evening, and sat on the porch while Lily slept, and Melissa read in bed. I looked up at the stars and thought, this is how the cycle ends. Not with forgiveness, not with reconciliation, but with truth, with presence, with peace. Melissa stepped outside a few minutes later, blanket draped over her shoulders. Was it what you needed? She asked. Yeah, I said. It was. She sat beside me, our hands finding each other like magnets. "I think it's over," I whispered. She didn't ask what it was. She knew. "Good," she said. "Now let's begin something better." And we did. Right there, in the quiet. With the past behind us and a life ahead. A real one. One we chose. On our terms. In our time. As a family. Whole, healed, and finally free. The official notice came 2 months later. A plain white envelope, addressed to me, postmarked from North Carolina. Inside was a single-page letter from my parents' attorney confirming that my mother had passed away peacefully in hospice the previous Friday. It hit harder than I expected. Not like a punch to the chest, more like a low wave pulling me under slowly. Quiet, cold, final. Melissa found me on the back porch an hour later, sitting on the steps with the letter in my hand and Lily's baby monitor buzzing softly behind me. She didn't ask what it said. She just sat down and leaned her head on my shoulder. After a while, I said, "She's gone." Melissa nodded. "I'm sorry." I didn't cry. I didn't even feel like crying. It was more like something inside me had gone still. Like part of the noise had finally stopped. "I didn't think it would feel like this," I said. "Like what?" "Like I'm not sure if I'm grieving or just closing a door." She wrapped her arm around mine. "Maybe it's both." We sat in silence until Lily's cry came through the monitor. I stood up and kissed the top of Melissa's head before heading inside. That night, after Lily was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and opened the drawer where I'd kept my mother's first letter. I took it out, unfolded it, and read it one last time. Then I burned it in the sink. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't anger. It was release. The next morning, a package arrived. It was from my dad. Inside was a photo album, wrapped in tissue paper. On the first page was a note in his handwriting. "These are from before everything got complicated. I thought you might want to show her one day. I know I didn't always do right by you, but I'm proud of you, and I hope you'll let that be part of what you remember." I flipped through the pages slowly. Pictures of me as a toddler, grinning with chocolate cake smeared on my face. Me in a Halloween costume made of cardboard and duct tape. Melissa came over and leaned on my shoulder as we turned the pages together. We got to one of me and my mom sitting on the hood of an old red truck. My arm around her neck, her eyes laughing at something off camera. Melissa traced her finger along the edge of the photo. "She looks different there." She was. I didn't say anything more. A week later, I went back to North Carolina, alone this time. No funeral, no crowd. Just a small burial ceremony with a few people from the hospice and my dad standing off to the side, shoulders hunched like the wind might blow him over. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just stood there in the brittle winter air, watching as the casket was lowered and the ground started to close over it. Afterward, we sat at a diner off the highway. My dad sipped his coffee while I pushed eggs around my plate. "Thanks for coming," he said finally. "I didn't do it for her," I said. He nodded. "I figured." He set down his mug and stared at his hands. She wanted to leave something for Lily, nothing big, just a small college fund, a few thousand. From when she first got sick, I nodded slowly. "Do whatever you think is right," I said. He blinked, caught off guard. "You're not angry." "I was," I said. "But I'm not carrying that anymore. It's too heavy." He stared out the window. "Do I get to meet her?" he asked softly. "Someday," I said, "if she wants that, and if you earn it." He didn't argue, just nodded again. When I got home that night, Lily was waiting by the front door with Melissa, wearing one of those ridiculous animal ear hoodies that made her look like a baby bear. She threw her arms in the air and yelled, "Dada!" like I'd been gone a year. I picked her up, buried my face in her neck, and held her longer than usual. Later, when Melissa and I were cleaning up dinner, I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she kissed me and said, "You did the right thing." "I didn't fix it," I said. "You weren't supposed to," she replied. "You ended it." That night, I stood by Lily's crib for a long time. She was curled up with her bunny, breathing slow and steady, and I thought, this is how it happens. This is how you break the cycle. Not with one big dramatic moment, but with small ones. Standing your ground. Saying no. Saying yes, but only when it's earned. Writing your own story, one page at a time. I touched her back lightly and whispered, "You'll never have to wonder if you're enough." And then I turned out the light and went to bed, knowing for the first time in my life that peace wasn't just something I hoped for. It was something I'd built, with my hands, my voice, my choices, and that I'd keep building it, every day, for her, for Melissa, for me. Life didn't change all at once. It didn't become some perfect Hallmark version of happiness. There were still hard days, sleepless nights, diaper blowouts in the middle of restaurant parking lots, fights with Melissa about things like laundry or how long was too long to let Lily cry before checking on her. But it was ours, all of it, unfiltered, uncurated, real. Spring came early that year. Lily started talking in strings of half-words and pointing at birds like they were magic. Melissa took on a few new design clients and filled the house with color swatches and little sketches taped to the fridge. I kept working at the shop, still fixing cars, still building a business I could be proud of, still coming home every night covered in grease and wiped out, but with enough energy left to hold my daughter until she fell asleep. The past still echoed sometimes, usually when something unexpected reminded me. A voicemail from my dad, just his voice saying, "Just checking in, no rush to call back." An old family photo I hadn't realized Melissa framed and put in Lily's room. Even a dream once, where I saw my mom in the kitchen making her old meatloaf recipe, smiling at Lily like nothing had ever gone wrong. I'd wake up from those moments with this strange ache. Not grief exactly, just absence. The kind you stop noticing until it brushes past you again. But here's the thing. The further I moved from it, the more I saw it for what it was. Not some tragic loss, just clarity. The quiet understanding that I'd finally stopped trying to earn what should have been freely given. Then, one Sunday in May, I found something that caught me off guard. We were clearing out the attic, trying to find Melissa's old rocking chair for her sister's baby shower gift, when I opened a box I hadn't seen in years. Inside was a stack of journals, half-filled notebooks, receipts folded into the margins, and at the bottom, an envelope. No name, just a thin line of dust and a faint scent of old paper. I opened it. Inside were two things: a handwritten note from my mother and a faded photo of her holding me as a baby. The note was dated 5 years before she died. "I don't know if you'll ever see this. I just want to say I did love you. I just didn't know how to show it without hurting you. I hope you find peace, even if it's without me." That was it. No signature, just those words. I sat there on the attic floor for a while, the smell of insulation and sun-warmed wood around me, the letter in one hand and the photo in the other, and I thought, maybe that's all some people can offer. Not healing, not repair, just recognition. Melissa climbed up a few minutes later, wiping her hands on her jeans. "You okay?" she asked. I handed her the letter. She read it, then set it down beside her and pulled me into her arms. We didn't talk about it after that. We didn't need to. That night, I framed the photo and set it on a shelf in Lily's room, right next to the one of Melissa's mom at her wedding, beaming with pride. I didn't do it for closure. I did it because Lily deserves to know she came from complicated people. People who tried, people who failed, people who didn't always know what love should look like, but felt it anyway. And because I wanted her to see that we're not just what we inherit, we're what we choose to carry forward. That Sunday evening, Melissa made dinner and Lily insisted on feeding herself, smearing mashed peas all over the tray and half her forehead. I watched them both, my wife and my daughter, and felt something land in me, quiet and deep. Not forgiveness, not finality, just peace. Not the kind you find, the kind you build. Every day, with hands that once carried hurt, and now carry hope. The last time I stood in front of my mother's grave, it was raining. Not the dramatic kind, just a quiet drizzle. The kind that soaked your shoulders slowly without you noticing. Lily was in her car seat, fast asleep in the back of the SUV, and Melissa stayed behind with her, letting me have the moment. It wasn't a planned visit. We were driving through North Carolina on the way to a beach rental Melissa had booked months earlier. One of those spontaneous, let's actually take a vacation this year trips we kept talking about, but never made happen. We passed the turnoff and I just kept going. Melissa didn't ask questions, she knew. So now I stood there, hands in my jacket pockets, facing a headstone that read, Elaine Marie Green, and beneath it, loving wife, mother, teacher, It struck me that there were so many titles in those 4 words, all of them true. And yet none of them really told the full story, not the sharp tongue, not the cold silences, not the weird mix of pride and distance that had shaped so much of my early life. I pulled the small plastic photo out of my wallet, the one from the attic. Her holding me, the real her, not the hard version I'd learned to tiptoe around. I didn't speak out loud. I didn't really need to. But if I had, I would have said this. You weren't always fair. You weren't always kind. But I think in your own broken way, you tried. And me. I made it out. I broke the cycle. I didn't become you. But I didn't hate you either. And that, more than anything, felt like a win. I stood there for a few more minutes. The rain picked up. I could hear Lily starting to fuss from inside the car. I gave the headstone one last nod and turned back to the road. When I got in the car, Melissa reached across and squeezed my hand. You okay? Yeah, I said. Actually, yeah. She smiled, started the engine, and pulled back onto the highway. That evening, we watched Lily toddle barefoot through the sand, chasing seagulls and shrieking with delight every time they scattered. Melissa laid out a blanket, pulled 2 beers from the cooler, and handed me one without a word. We sat side by side, watching the waves roll in, and I realized something. Peace wasn't just the absence of pain, it was the presence of purpose. It was Melissa beside me, warm and steady. It was Lily, wild and free in the sand. It was the hum of waves, the clink of bottles, the knowledge that I had done the work, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. I took a long sip of beer and leaned into my wife. I think this is it, I said. What is? This life. This moment. It's what I always wanted, she smiled. Took us long enough, but we got here. We watched the sun drop behind the ocean, Lily's laughter carried away on the breeze, and I thought if my mother had ever felt this kind of peace, maybe things would have been different. But that wasn't my story to carry anymore. This was ours, written in the sand, in baby footprints, in the quiet joy of an ordinary day. No more guilt, no more performance, no more proving anything to anyone, just love, real, messy, unconditional, enough.